Okay, so gold. Let's look at gold. Gold is doing something very, very weird. This is an all-time chart, so you know, uh, it doesn't maybe give you the right impression, but this is the last 5 years. Look at how it just skyrocketed. And even this year, this last year, it went up 60%. 60%. 60% is an enormous amount of money. 60% means that if you had any savings at the beginning of the year, you now have 60% less. Gold is one of the most correct ways to measure inflation. Gold is the closest thing to measure inflation against. Inflation for this year, for 2025, is 60%. 60%. And this comes in years in which inflation was crazy. 2022 inflation started, it was a lot of inflation. 2023, 2024 was a lot of other inflation. But this year, in particular, this is a disaster. This is a disaster. Now, there is a thing that you need to understand about gold. Gold is something that you buy when there is no business to invest in. Gold is what you buy when there is no assets that you're going to invest in. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that drives up the price of gold, surely, is war. So if you think about Ukraine, or think about any other war zone, what are you going to invest in? Are you going to invest in businesses that run in Ukraine? What business is making money in Ukraine? Are you going to invest in real estate? Are you going to invest in property? Are you going to invest in land? What are you going to invest in Ukraine? There's a war going on. The only people making money are, well, the governments and the weapons manufacturers. That's the only people that make money there. But everything else has totally lost its value. Maybe, the companies supplying food, that's maybe the only thing that still stands. That's maybe the only thing that still makes any money whatsoever. But outside of that, what are you going to invest in? So when times are good, when businesses can run, you're probably going to take your money and invest it in businesses. You're probably going to take your money and invest it in land. You're probably going to take your money and invest it in something that produces stuff. But when times are bad, when there is a recession, when there is little to nothing to invest in, when there is a war going on, right now we have many wars going on, well, in that case, you are going to want to buy gold. Now, in this moment in particular, there are so many things though that are really influencing the price of gold. This year in particular, this marks the start of a political crisis. Okay, so 2024 was an election year, and coincidentally, this amazing rally, this whatever percent rally since the election, this is approximately, so this 60% rally since the election in the USA has been driven mainly by political reasons. Some of the political reasons are the strong divide between right and left in the US, right? So in the US, if you're a politically adversarial person, they will just take your money. They will just close your bank account. They will just take everything you have. They will make it impossible for you to do anything. They will sue you. They will arrest you. They will, weaponize any and everything that they can. And so, if you're a rich person, you will want to hide your wealth. You will want to hide everything that you have. Because politics... Fuck. Okay, sorry about that. Because politics and, justice are weaponized against you. So, this is one of the reasons. The political unrest in the United States, it is something that is alarming. It is something that is absolutely out of control. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. So that is one thing that's creating internal instability in the US. So even there, what are you going to invest in? When in 4 years' time, you don't know if the laws that are in place now are going to still be in place. You don't know if in 4 years' time, your gains are going to be taxed 20% or 50% or 75%. You don't know, because Trump in his first term had some tax cuts to corporations. Biden canceled those, and now Trump just put them back on. And so if a Democrat comes back in, he may just wipe away everything that Trump is doing, for example, on Bitcoin. For example, on the tax cuts, for example, on the deregulation of crypto, right? So there is a lot of political instability. You do not know what the rules are to do business in a few years. You just don't know. There is no way. And so what business are you going to invest in? You don't know what the taxes are going to be. You don't know what the government is going to fund. You don't know anything of that. The only company that is rallying like crazy lately is Palantir. That is the only company that's doing stuff along with AI, right? So that is one of the reasons. But then this Trump admin has declared war on China. This is something that is significantly driving up the prices, because China used to be one of the key economies holding the US economy up. So when a government wants to raise money, it issues bonds, which are basically, the government asks you for money, and they'll give you a little interest on top, and that's it. So people will buy that, and the government will take that money, spend it, and when the maturity of that bond is reached, the government will just pay back the bond and pay an interest on top. And the people buying these bonds, well, generally they're not people, they are large entities, large asset management entities, like BlackRock, like other asset funds, pension funds, but also it's central banks. And the Chinese central bank was one of the largest buyers of US debt. It was up until around last year. Again, around the time Trump got elected. And now they've stopped buying those. And instead, they started buying gold. Because the US economy to them and to many people seems unstable, unsustainable, weak, and fundamentally giving your money to the US government, borrowing them your money, is something that is seen as dangerous now, more dangerous than it was before, because we don't know if the US is going to pay back its debt. Because the likely thing that is going to happen is that the US will try to devalue its debt, devalue the currency. So say today you can buy a burger for $10. If the US devalues its currency through inflation, tomorrow a burger will be $20. But if it just has to pay you back $10, so it can just give you half a burger back. And you have to take it. That's the contract. That's the bond. That's how it works. So really, a collapse of the dollar is not at all sustainable for continuing to borrow. Who will want to give you more money if the last time you paid back half of your burger? Who will want to give you money if you just devalued the currency and now, you effectively scammed them? Okay? So because of this danger of just losing out the money that you've put into the US government, into the US economy, many central banks have stopped buying US bonds. They've stopped buying US treasuries. They've stopped buying those. And if you look at the yields on those bonds, you see that the yields have gone up significantly. So the interest rate on the bonds has gone up significantly because, well, there just isn't demand. And so the yields go up. When demand is low, yields will go up. So many central banks, China, Russia, they've stopped buying gold. They've stopped buying treasuries from the U.S. and instead they've started buying gold. They've started accumulating gold, stockpiling gold at levels that are almost like panic buying it, really. So if you look at the Chinese central bank's statements, which they release every month on the 7th of every month, you see that the gold levels that they have, the gold supply that they have is rising consistently every month. They just buy gold. They just buy more and more and more gold every month in order to, now that they've steered away from US treasuries, they're just buying gold. Same goes for Russia. Russia, well, is in a war right now. They've been sanctioned. They cannot do trade with Europe. They cannot do trade with the US or Australia. They've effectively been banned from doing that. And so they resort to gold. Now, this is one of the main reasons that the price has gone up so significantly. Simply put, the trust that was there in the US government, the trust that was there in its hegemony, militarily first of all, and economically second of all, is coming to a halt. Many people do not trust the US economy, many people do not trust the US government, many people do not trust the US. And so this is the creation of a multipolar world. The rest of the world has seen that the US is so politically unstable, it's so, out of its mind, that this is a project on the BRICS side to create a counterweight to the US hegemony. And the fact that they've skyrocketed the price of gold to this point is really telling. It's really telling. Now, the geopolitical instability that I talked about earlier is another main reason for this. So the wars that are going on currently are a major trigger to a shift of power from a one-world hegemony. The US is the only giant, it's the only hegemon that existed up until maybe 10 years ago. And now a fragmented, multipolar world. So the US economy, if you look at it, it produces nothing. There is nothing they make. There is nothing they make. It's terribly inefficient. It's terribly unproductive. People don't work in the US. People just consume and spend credit cards, and that's all they do. That's all the US does. They just bet. The only people getting rich in the US are the ones that own assets. There is no work to do there. There is no way to work your way into riches, simply. Because the only way you make money is by getting in a bubble and having a bubble go on forever. So you have a bubble in stocks, you have a bubble in real estate, you have a bubble in gold now, you have a bubble everywhere. So effectively the US has the largest economy in the world, not because it produces much, but simply because it's constantly in a bubble. Ever since, COVID really kicked it, but the US has been in a bubble for a long ass time. The only thing that the US is frontier in and maybe not really anymore, is AI and social media. Social media, I'd say, it still has a good lead, but TikTok is um, a strong threat. But even AI, I'm not sure that the US is going to win AI. And if you look at manufacturing, well, China is making everything. Everything that you have in your home is made in China. Like the mic that I'm using, the phone, my computer, my sofa probably, everything that I own here is made in China. And so it's just a no-brainer that right now there is a huge clash between economies. There is a huge clash between the economy of the US and the economy, well, you could say of China mainly. That's the main that's the main geopolitical tension that is then creating conflicts everywhere in the world. So the idea that world peace is upon us, that now Trump is in office and he's going to fix everything, this is what he did. He created instability to the point that now China and Russia are really pushing for BRICS. Now China and Russia are really pushing against the US. Now China and Russia have stopped buying US debt, right? So what you see here is a deeply divided world. On one side you have the US with its bubbles. The only way that the US can escape its debt is by effectively automating the economy. The only solution that the US has is AI taking everybody's jobs and manufacturing everything for nothing, which is unrealistic, which is very unlikely to happen, in my opinion. I've developed a strong anti-AI case. I do not think that it's going to be as revolutionary as the marketing would say. And so the only thing that can save the US is by automating the whole economy, cutting every cost, and then becoming a manufacturing hub larger than China, which is very unlikely. Let's put it lightly. It's very unlikely. The only thing keeping the US economy up is a bubble. And when you have a bubble that is facing against the largest industrial base in the world, you really have to have a great bubble or some great army. But the thing is, this economic tension, this geopolitical issue is not going away. It's not going anywhere. China and the US are going to be in a long Cold War. And wars are good for gold. Wars are good for gold because there really isn't much that you can invest in otherwise. And what happens now, and this is my prediction, it's it may be wrong. I will look back onto this and see what I said. I hope I'm right. But I don't think gold prices are going to be changing any soon. I do not think that the uptrend is going to stop. It's been rather strong up until now. And it's not going to stop going up until the economic clash between China and the US comes to a halt. And the way it comes to a halt is by one of the two economies collapsing, by one of the two getting destroyed by an economic recession. Maybe both, who knows? But I think that it's more likely that a bubble pops than China stopping to be the manufacturing hub of everything that you own. So on that note, I am predicting one of the two economies to get destroyed, to get shattered. I do not know which one, but if I were to bet, I would say Mm, well, actually, I don't know. I don't know because likely it's going to trigger a more violent war. So it's likely that unless this economic war is solved somehow, it's going to land into a military war. Taiwan is one place. Venezuela is another place where, China gets a lot of its oil from Venezuela. And the US is going to conquer them. And, basically by cutting off the supply chain, it's really kind of weird. It's a very divided scenario. The thing is, the main thing I think to take away from this is that geopolitical instability, now that maybe Israel has stopped, maybe Russia and Ukraine are close to a peace, the geopolitical instability is not going anywhere. The geopolitical instability is not going to stop. The geopolitical instability is not, the geopolitical instability has symptom in wars, has symptom in these unbalances. But even if you cure the symptom, even if you have a ceasefire, even if you have a truce, the main war that is going on is the economic war between the US and China. That's the main war that we need to watch out for. And we will have to see who gets destroyed first. But up until a definitive end to that is reached, gold prices are going to go up. Because, well, what are you going to invest in? Are you going to invest in the Chinese market when you don't know if oil prices are going to double tomorrow? Are you going to invest in the US bubble? Which, every year for the past 3 years, everybody has been saying a recession is coming, a recession is coming, a recession is coming. The thing is, if a recession comes, you have lost to China. And so that's something that you absolutely want to avoid. Because then it drags you into a full-on war. And then when you're weak, well, China goes to invade Taiwan and it takes AI. And the only thing that could have saved you gets destroyed, right? So it's really a geopolitical chaos. In the midst of this, Russia is also an interesting player. I do not think Russia is going to lose in Ukraine. The thing is, Russia being one of the largest gold holders now, if they lose, likely they will pay back their war debt by selling gold. And the same happens to China. If China loses the economic war, to pay back their debt, they're going to have to sell that gold. And that is why, in that moment, gold will probably go down. At the end of the geopolitical tension ends with one of the two sides winning. At the end of that, one of the two sides will have to likely, since more than likely the currencies are going to be worthless by then, they will have to sell their gold to pay back their debt. And maybe I'm naive with this. Maybe I'm very naive with this. Maybe they can just, be indebted forever. That is another possibility. So maybe gold just never gets crashes of any kind. That might be the case. But, many people have been... I've been seeing various people saying, gold is going down. Gold is not going to come back. Gold is overbought. But the reason, the tension that gold is overbought is not being resolved today. It's not being resolved anytime soon, really. And so before things get better, they're likely going to get worse. And in bad times, gold is probably the safest bet that you have.